Well, I'm 20 minutes from my gig and I'm driving in the woods. That is always a terrible feeling, I gotta say. I hate the old middle of nowhere drives. I like to be near Dunkin's. I like to be near a gas station. I like it to be near urgent care facility. Never a fan of the far off the highway gigs, but what can you do, you know? What can you do? You gotta work where the comedy is.
Let's go.
This is turning into one of the weirdest shows I've ever done. It really is.
Catch me if you can, goddammit. Catch me if you can. You hear me?
Will Noonan's so funny and I'm after him, so I guess I'm after Noonan.
You're listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are. Thank you for listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan. Notice me. It's been a super long time since I've done a podcast, but I'm back. That's the Hypothetically podcast in the past year or so. Sometimes I'll take these long breaks. You know, if you don't know, I have another podcast called The Noonan Show. It's new. It's only 15 episodes in, so I've been working on that. So I have been putting out one of those every single week with my good friend Paul Price, Brickwall something on Twitter. You see me talking to him all the time on Twitter. But anyway, I haven't been totally, slacking podcasting wise like I have in the past, working on a new show, but haven't really done an episode of Hypothetically. And I was just talking on that new show with Paul the other day about how this podcast used to be a lot more fun to do. It's still fun to do. I don't want to say fun, but it was. I had a lot more energy to do it when I was middling more and doing the feature act, middle guy, opening act type stuff, 20, 30-minute sets. Because on the ride home from a gig, I'd still have a lot of energy. I'd still have a lot more to say. I'm still in the comedic zone, but. Closing shows, doing 45 minutes an hour, by the time it's over, the last thing I want to do when I get in my car is keep talking by myself into the recorder, But I have to say, I love doing Hypothetically. I think it's good for me comedically as well. I can, I work out a lot of bits talking to you guys on here. Just helps me riff on stage doing this podcast. And it's a great thing. So, as I was talking about it, and people come up and ask me about it all the time, I'm like, man, I got to get back to Hypothetically. So, but I have been a very, very, very busy boy since the last time I put out an episode. Super fucking busy. The Honda commercials that I were in, the Honda commercials that I were in, they came out. Acting is for smart people. But the Honda commercials that I was in came out. They're on all the time, and everyone's seen them, and that's great news, right? I went to Florida for 2 weeks, really almost 3 weeks. I should have done a Hypothetically down there. I did 2 episodes of the Noonan Show down there. I brought the recorder. I had the podcasting stuff. I was in a house with Jimmy Dunn, Kevin Flynn, Mike Whitman. We were all there together, having fun. Would have been a great time to do podcasting. But to be 100% honest with you guys, as I always am, we were just having fun. We were living comedy life and not observing it, which is really what a podcast kind of is. You're sort of observing life when you're podcasting, and it's fun, but we all know the best stories, the real shit talk, the real best stuff, backstage comedy talk is still off mic. Podcasting's great, but you can't say everything you want to say on a podcast, and you still have business relationships, and people just can't really be 100% real all the time on podcasts as much as we want to be, So down there, we did an episode of Kevin Flynn's soccer podcast. I did 2 episodes of The Noonan Show with Paul from there. I Skyped in. All those, that's a YouTube show, by the way, so all those are available on YouTube, on video, and also on iTunes, Libsyn, everything like that on, in podcast form. So I don't want to spend too much time plugging the other show, but I'm very proud of it. It's definitely still in its infancy, and we're figuring stuff out, but we got some good segments. We got our Just Shave It Bro, which is where we look at a bald guy or balding guy who's still, holding on to his hair, and we decide whether or not he should shave it or keep it. Is this guy a Just Shave It Bro candidate? If you feel you're a Just Shave It Bro candidate, and you want our expert opinion on whether or not you should shave it, Paul's a guy who shaves his whole head because he's got male pattern baldness under there, I have a full head of hair as of right now, and we like to, as friends, we oft have discussed hair loss. It's become a segment on the show. Another segment, Howie Mandela Effect, where we talk about the newest sort of health scare trend thing that's going on in the world. Every week I scratch a scratch ticket live on the air. Could watch someone become a millionaire right in front of your eyes. But it's a little bit like this show in some ways too. Me and Paul usually talk about something that's going on with me at the beginning of the show, but it's its own thing, and we're going to be having some guests Skyping in soon as we get that technology perfected. We don't want to fuck around with it, but yeah. Wrote an article for The Dig. All kinds of things going on. Very busy guy. I'm going to be filming some more stuff in the next week. And be getting ready for that. Not to mention just getting back from Florida. I hit the ground running. I was out in Springfield. I worked with the great Greg Fitzsimmons, who is a hero of mine. Who, if you're a long-term listener of this podcast, you know that Fitzsimmons was a big part of the reason why I started podcasting, started stand-up. I mean, one of the guys I really couldn't even believe. I actually played like a mental trick with myself. I knew that I was working with Greg Fitzsimmons. I knew that I would be in a hotel, for the weekend with Greg Fitzsimmons, and we'd probably have a meal together or something. And I knew all that in my head, but I just sort of pushed it to the side and was like, I'm not even gonna think about that, how crazy cool and big that's gonna be until it happens, because I have so much other shit going on. I can't even think about that and can't even wrap my head around it. So I get back from Florida, it's like I have a day to get my shit together. Oh, that's a whole nother fucking story. All right, this is what Hypothetically is all about. I'll tell you guys a story. So first of all, Florida. Spring training, comedy on the fly, Jimmy Dunn. Cannot express this enough. I had the best fucking time. I don't think I had any trepidation going. I think I talked about it on this podcast, a little bit. I was like, with any big trip, you're like, this could suck. Most comedians, we only spend a few hours with each other at a time. At most, doing a show, a couple hours hanging out. So that's like, hey, we're all best buddies. Does that mean we want to all live together for 2 weeks? That's a big difference, right? I had never even been on the road that long before. Close to it, but not that long. And in Florida, flights, all that kind of crazy shit, doing 15 or 16 shows in a row, in the same venue. It was all kinds of crazy shit. So I guess I had some trepidation, as anyone I think would in that scenario. But not much. I wanted to do it. It was 100% like, I can't wait to do this. Love baseball, love comedy, love Jimmy Dunn. This is a no-brainer. It's an automatic yes. But surpassed my expectations. I had a blast. I had no problems down there. The only hint of a problem was that couldn't get any weed for the fucking life of me, man. I don't know if you guys know this about Florida, but weed still very, very illegal down there. It's like, go to jail, illegal. Some of you are probably laughing listening to this at different parts of the country and different parts of the world going, dude, yeah, welcome to the rest of the society. Like, weed can get you in big trouble where I live. But In my world, it has not gotten you in big trouble in a long time. Because even before it was legal, on the way to legalization, it was pretty much just a slap on the wrist type of fucking drug. And, you know, unless you had a lot of other shit going on, they didn't really give a fuck about it. And that's almost my whole childhood, you know. You could always run into the wrong cop somewhere, or if your buddy had like a scale on him or something, shit would get serious. But as far as just smoking weed or buying like a dime bag or a 20 sack or whatever, things, you know, cops usually, I am white and all that, but cops usually, if you're cool about it, well, and you don't have other drugs, it's not a night in jail type thing. But in Florida, it is. And I realized right away when I was trying to get some weed from people who are down there, like night one, I like to set it up right away, you know. So I'm down there. As soon as I'm meeting people from the hotel that I'm working with, you know, people who smoke weed, we can fucking spot each other from a mile away. So I'm seeing some bartenders at the hotel, some people who work for the room we're having the show in, and I'm hitting them up. And I'm getting old vibes about weed that I haven't gotten in a long time. Like, people are like, are you a cop? You know, they're not saying that, but that's the look they're giving me. They're, like, afraid. I'm not going to risk going to jail for some guy I don't know. You know, how bad do you need weed? Da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just going, Jesus fucking Christ. I was trying to get some fucking weed. Didn't think it would be this hard. So it took me... I had to do it on my own, people. You know how it goes. I had to do it. You want to do something, you want to get something done, you gotta do it yourself. So I knew the people down there weren't going to help me as far as people who work for the comedy club, whatever. So I put out on Twitter, which I thought this was kind of smart. I thought your boy was kind of smart with this one. I put out on Twitter, I'm in Fort Myers, Florida. I have a question only a local would know the answer to. Anyone down here, Southwest Florida, a fan, follower, whatever, DM me or hit me up if you're down here. I got a question only a local would know the answer to. Now, a few people who aren't locals were smart enough to figure out what I was doing. But dude hit me up. I don't want to give his name away or his identity away in any way. But dude hit me up. He's a fan of Anthony Cumia and the Anthony Cumia Show, Compound Media, all that stuff. Knew me from those shows. Became a fan of mine, I guess you would say. I feel as if we're friends now, but at this point, just a fan of mine, you know, fan of comedy, fan of the Compound, right? This guy hits me up. He's like, hey, what's going on? What do you need? I'm like, dude, I need some weed. Can't get any weed down here. I'm going to be down here for almost 3 weeks. It's going to be a long trip. And, you know, just to break out of the story a little bit, I wasn't jonesing. I wasn't like freaking out, you know, but it was one of those things where night one, I was so exhausted from the trip and all that stuff that I was like, whatever, smoke weed, don't smoke weed. Then night two, you're like, you just, you know, I wasn't missing it as much. Night three, night four, I just started to go like, man, this is just getting kind of boring. Like I'd like to unwind a little bit. I'm watching people, you know, get drunk when I'm on stage. I'm watching the crowd, and I'm like, I would enjoy some, you know, intoxicants. I would enjoy a bit of relaxation in the form of marijuana. So where can I get some? I mean, I was asking people on stage. I forget to mention, I did have a couple moments here and there. I had this really cool guy, so I would mention it on stage. I had this cool dude who was from the North Shore. He brought weed, like he gave me half a joint. He's like, I got a half a joint in my car. I was like, I'll take it, dude. So he gave me half a joint. Me and a fellow comedian smoked that thing. You would have thought we were fucking like... It's so funny, dude. Weed is like money, you know? Like, back in Boston, on my desk, I had a half ounce of weed. And in Florida, after 4 days or 3 days of not having it, and someone gives you half a joint, it feels like a half an ounce of weed. Like, we smoked that shit. I got so fucking high. I was like, oh, it's great, man. It just doesn't matter. Then a girl who worked at the hotel gave me she felt bad for me hearing me talk about not having weed on stage every night, so she gave me half a blunt to smoke, and I gave her some money for it. I gave her like $10 for half a blunt. It was like prison rules all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, I got this fucking blunt now. Like, but back to the story. This great Kumia fan drove 30 minutes after work to deliver me some weed at the show. I was scared. I was a little bit scared, I won't lie. It was right after Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft got nabbed out of Florida massage parlor, like the day I got down there. So I was like, man, they're busting celebs down here. Setting up stings. I don't know. Me and Robert Kraft right on the same level. But anyway, I was sort of like I was giving the guy a lot of outs, and I was kind of going. He goes, this is weird, I imagine. He goes, you're probably freaked out. He goes, here, I added you on Facebook. That way, I liked your Facebook fan page. You can look at my Facebook and see I'm a regular guy. And I look at his Facebook. I'm like, you look like a cop. You look like a cop. You have a cop haircut, cop facial hair. All the pictures are like hunting and fishing, which are cop hobbies. But, it also brought me back to buying weed in a time where it was a bit of a thrill to buy weed and a bit of a dangerous, act. It's a bit of a risk. You're taking a bit of a risk. But the dude, saved my ass down there. So he sells me a 1/4 ounce. He admits it's a little on the light side, he thinks, but I'm like, hey, it's fine. He didn't even smoke weed. He got it like through his wife's dealer. This dude was he really came through in a massive way. Made my whole trip so much better. So I had a 1/4, but I knew, I was like, all right, by the time I got the 1/4, I was like, I still have around 12 days here, or 13 days here. I was like, I got to make this 1/4 ounce of weed last. And I'm smoking the other comedian. No one else in the house who smokes pot is even attempting to try and track it down. I got the fucking pipe down there. I got everything. It was like my job to do it. But then again, it was not just my job to smoke it. Which is fine. I obviously was not going to be... I was not going to be... What's the word I'm looking for? Stingy or anything with the weed, but I was kind of like, hey y'all, you don't even understand what I had to go through to get this. There's no more coming. And if it was kind of like a life raft scenario, and I had all this bread, and I'm watching it, and every now and then someone would be like, why does Will get to decide when we have bread, and I'm like, because I got the bread. And if I gave you the bread, you'd just eat it all. There were a couple moments like that, but not really. We're not a bunch of fiends, to be honest. But it was an end of the night thing. We got into a routine down there where at the end of the night, we'd all gather around the pool. People who drank would drink beers. The people who smoked would smoke. The people who ate burgers would eat burgers. It would just be a fun hangout, and we'd all shoot the shit. That was one of the fun parts of the trip, was the nightly post-show sort of hang back at the house. It was a trip, man. It was if I had to describe it to someone, which I have 100 times since I've been back, I would describe it as, it was a lot like, I imagine, being on tour. More than being on the road. It was more like, being on tour is being on the road, but it was, we weren't in a hotel, we were in a home, but we had a schedule, especially me and Jimmy. I went to a lot of baseball games, gladly. Made friends with Ken, the usher. It's one of the coolest times. I watched a lot of games with this old guy named Ken. He's an usher down there. He's cool as fuck. Met a ton of great people down there who work for the Red Sox and for Nesson. So it was like hanging at the ballpark, doing some stuff with radio, going to different ballparks, and then at night doing the shows. But it was like meals, schedule. Everything was kind of like a group decision or a new experience every hour. So it was, when I got back, it took me a few days to kind of stopped my head from spinning almost, even though it was a very kind of chill trip. In a lot of ways, it was a very busy trip, and it was a work trip too. So it was a lot, but 10-10-10 would do it again. It was a fucking blast. I want to thank Jimmy Dunn, Sam Adams, and Harry for hashtag Harry for having me down there. It was just a cool experience, man. And spring training that was a bucket list thing I got to check off my bucket list. Go down and see some spring training baseball. When I say that out loud, it makes me, I'm like, am I that guy that was on my bucket list to see spring training baseball? Yes. Love baseball. Love that baseball's back. And I'm happy that I'll be going to a fucking Sox game tomorrow at Fenway. Even though I feel like I've already seen 6 Sox games this year, man. Because I have, down in Fort Myers. But, yeah, we talked a lot about that trip on the other show. And especially while I was down there. So if you're interested in what I did down in Florida and what my experience, and you want to hear more about that, check out The Noonan Show. If you subscribe to this, you should subscribe to that. It's on iTunes, Spotify, but where we really need the love right now is on YouTube, because we do the show. We don't do it. I don't blame it, like, people for not watching us live, but no one's watching it on YouTube really in general. So, like, really pitiful numbers, but the podcast numbers are good, so we're going to keep doing it and keep doing it that way. But YouTube is a fucking unique and mesmerizing beast. And I feel like me on YouTube, even though I've been watching things on YouTube and I've had an account for a lot of years, I'm only really started putting out a lot of content this year. And I feel like one of those, like when comedians come up to me, like now, and they're like, I just started a Twitter. What do you think I should do? And I'm like, yeah, it's way too late, dude. You're too late to the party. It's fucking, Twitter is pretty sealed up. It's hard to get followers now. Yeah, do your thing. But, so that's kind of how I feel on Twitter. It's just I'm like the last guy to try and do his own Twitter show. But fuck it. We're having fun, and it's fun to do. I love doing this and talking to myself and talking to you guys, but it is fun to just do the show with Paul right around the corner, hang out with Paulie. You know, it's a lot of fun. What else we got? So, breaking out of kind of the whole, this is what's going on with my life thing. Yeah, that is sort of what Hypothetically is, but I like Hypothetically to also just be me talking completely out of my ass about a multitude of topics. That's what I like Hypothetically to be. One of the things I've been thinking about is not good is true crime television. Now, I'm a fan. I love true crime. But in my past, I've had to put myself on true crime suspensions. You know, I put myself on a true crime block. Because too much true crime, and this includes everything from Forensic Files, Dateline, to Netflix documentaries like Making a Murderer, the Ted Bundy thing. It's great entertainment. Obviously, they do great numbers. If you go back through history, people are just interested in murders and deaths and the punishments of others. That's just a human instinct to be, to turn heads. For us to have a gossipy nature and be interested in all this blood and gut shit. Of course, it's in our nature to want to know more. But just like alcohol, just like marijuana, just like other things, food, you can over fucking do it and start to see, diminishing returns, negative effects. And maybe, just maybe, being so entertained by all this murder and child molestation is a little bit fucked up and not good for us as a society. For example, it used to kind of be a rainy day watching. It would be that kind of thing someone would recommend on a rain. Hey, if it's a rainy day, check out, and you're like, feeling kind of weird, check out that documentary about the West Memphis 3. It's definitely not feel good. You're not going to want to watch, you're probably never going to want to watch it again, but it's very interesting. But you got to be in a certain kind of mood. Check out that thing about the West Memphis 3. That would be the kind of, and you would go, it would almost be like recommending a history book to someone. You're like, I don't know if you're into this, but if you are into that sort of thing, on a rainy day, you might like this one. But now, people get excited. Cultural event, tweetable, Instagrammable. Oh my God, did you see the Ted Bundy documentary on Netflix? It's so fucking good. He's not attractive. People say he's attractive. Oh my God, this guy broke out of jail so many times. Oh my fucking God. Oh, did you see R. Kelly? R. Kelly's got sex slaves. He's getting arrested right now. You can watch a documentary during the daytime and watch him getting arrested at night. Holy shit, it's a fucking mess. Did you see Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson's Leaving Neverland? Fucking people took the kids there. Kids got molested by Michael Jackson. Love the songs, hate the man. Hey, did you see the other one on Netflix about the guy who fucks an entire family, abducted in plain sight? This guy molested an entire family. Make sure you watch all this stuff. Like, people were so fucking 2 thumbs up. Best movie of 2019. It's like, we are fucking sad. We are in a depression. We are in a national depression if people get amped for true crime documentaries. I'm all for it. They need to exist. True crime is interesting. I find it interesting. But holy shit, I don't understand the meme culture. Oh, I totally understand it. It's funny, makes us all laugh. But what the fuck, man? When it comes to people just fucking getting so excited about these movies, almost in the way people used to get excited about just regular movies, Star Wars, Good Will Hunting, I can remember 98, 99. Now we're going back fucking 30 years. Holy, no, that's 20 years, right? 20 years, yeah, we're going back like 20 years. See how stupid I am. So you should never listen to anything I ever say. Especially math-wise. But 20 years ago, Good Will Hunting comes out. It's a movie about a kid. I understand I live in Boston. It was a bigger deal here, but those guys won an Oscar. It was a big fucking hit. But that's a movie. Shakespeare in Love was another big one back then during the time of great movies winning Oscars before remakes. And I love comic book movies, but I don't need 40 a year. All that blah blah blah, right? Old Man Noonan misses the Miramax era. No big deal. But it just speaks to everything, Post Malone is the music we listen to. R. Kelly having sex slaves and Ted Bundy murdering chicks is the movies we watch. Xanax is the drug we do. It's just a sad fucking time. Justin Bieber looking like it's a sad time when our celebrities look like shit. Like, the celebrities just look like shit right now. When you look back at the 70s and you're like, how was that guy famous? Why was that guy famous? He looks like a shitty bum. And that's exactly what people are going to say about now. We're so going to look back at now like we look back at the 70s. I think I've said this 100 times, so I'll quit with the fucking repetitive nature, but it's so cultureless. We want to comment on everything all the time. Even in this podcast, I have 2 podcasts where I talk about stuff. But both of those things aren't really a creation in themselves. My stand-up act is a creation in itself. But talk shows, we're just sitting around commenting on things. That's not really art. Twitter, social media, it's like we gave up vegetables entirely and we just want to eat candy forever. That's sort of the way we are right now. I don't think anything lasts forever, though. I'm definitely not pessimistic. I already see a national pullback of like, man, aren't we getting a little bit? Aren't we kind of pigs rolling around in our own depression? Like the shit, we're like pigs in shit, happy to be in shit, and the shit is our mental health problems, and we're just rolling around in them now, and it's become a little bit of a joke. Whoa, started out as a fun little riff about Netflix, became pretty sad and societal. But what you gonna do? What you gonna do? I found out something funny the other day about myself. I was talking to this young lady who works in comedy, and she is sort of newly sober, I think. I don't know if it's a couple years or a couple months or something, but I remember thinking, oh, it's not that long. And I was like, oh, I don't, she's like, you're sober too. And I go, oh, I always feel a little bit weird saying that I'm sober because I smoke weed. But that's all I do. Smoke weed and crush bowling pins. You know, it's my two vices. But she says, oh, you just smoke weed, but you don't drink. Oh, you're California sober. And I was like, I like that. California sober. That might be the name of my next album, even though I think it kind of implies that I live in California or I have any sort of love for California, which is invalid. I don't hate California. It's okay, but I don't love it, and I don't live there. So it would be a little bit of a misleading title. But if smoking weed and not drinking makes you California sober, I think that's great. I think there should be all different types of sober. You know, like if you only do cocaine and nothing else, you're like Colombian sober. If you only do crystal meth, but you don't drink or smoke weed, you're what would you be like? Alabama sober. I'm Alabama sober. I just do meth in the morning. Wake myself up a little bit. I don't touch that booze. Fucks my stomach up. I don't touch nothing like that. I'll tell you what. Meth ain't killing me. I wonder if there's some responsible meth users out there. I used to buy weed from a couple chicks in LA. Speaking of California, when I lived in LA, I used to buy weed from a couple chicks who did meth. You know, to make myself sound a little on the old side, to make myself sound a little on the old side, hold on, sorry, I just got distracted because I realized where I was. I'm like on the way towards the fucking casino. Is that where I'm going? I don't think so. Hold on, let me pull over for a second, just make sure I'm not going to the wrong spot. Okay, I'm back. Just had to double check, man. I was like, this thing looks, I'm on the road to Mohegan Sun, man. That's not where I'm trying to fucking go. I'm fucking Connecticut sober. That means I'm just a gambling addict. That's all I do. Just hit slots. Oh, yeah. So when I got back from Florida, this was kind of a funny story. I mean, beautiful fucking weather down there. So beautiful. Perfect. The first couple of days I got there, I'd say it was a scotch too warm. It was in the high 80s, 87, 88. I was feeling a little bit sweaty. I was like, ooh, it's nice to be out of New England, don't get me wrong, but it was a little, at times you're like, ooh, let me get out of this sunshine for a second, get some shade or some AC or something. That was only for the first couple days I was there. And then after that, it was like 82, 83, 77 in that ballpark, and damn, it was just fucking nice. Fucking shorts all day. Just wearing shorts, kid. And so that was the best part, was the weather. Then I come back, or one of the best parts. There was all kinds of best parts. But I come back and all the, the day I came back was just a perfect fucking New England go fuck yourself day. Just snow, rain, overcast, snow and rain at the same time, like that not at all beautiful snow, just like hard, cold, wet little flakes that the wind was blowing hard. It was coming down sideways. The second I got off the plane, it was like, welcome home, motherfucker. Everyone's sad. It's dark. It smells. Being outside hurts. And no one missed you. Welcome home. It was sort of a brutal. Like I'd kind of hoped, because the weather wasn't so bad right before I left. I'd kind of hoped maybe spring will be springing right when I get back, and I'll miss, all the bad weather. I'll sort of go out with all the bad weather, and I was not too close to being right. I cut that early by about 3 weeks. I still had a few really cold days and some little bit of snow, but now it's turning out all right. But it was still not bad. But so I get back. All I want to do is pick up my car. I got back very early in the morning, like 9 in the morning. Got fucking my balls fondled by security down there, and got my balls fondled by security down there on fucking in Fort Myers. Bunch of idiots at the TSA. I must say they were a real group of dum-dums at that airport TSA. And then get back. All I wanted to do was go pick up my car and go see my chick, who I hadn't seen in 2.5 weeks. And I missed her quite a bit in various ways, as we all know, right? Part of me felt like I just got out of prison. So I left my car at my parents' house because I was like, I don't want to leave it in Southie, even in a parking, lot, because people notice the car hasn't moved in 2 weeks and they start fucking with it. So I was like, I'm gonna leave it at my parents' house. And I even made the joke down there a couple times. I wonder what my dad's doing with my car, because he always likes to drive other people's cars, especially my car. And he always says the same thing. Like, I keep the car, I always get it tuned up, I always change the oil, I always get the brake pads and tires, like because it's a work car, I take good care of it because I really need to rely on it. My dad always drove Boston police cars, which you don't even drive the same car every day. You can fucking, you blow a tire, you blow the shocks. It's the state of Massachusetts problem. Like, he just beats on cars. So he always gets into my car and goes, oh, wow, it's a smooth ride. Your car drives so smooth. I was like, yeah, because, I take good care of it. And I don't mind if, obviously, I'm leaving my car at his house for almost a month. I don't care if he drives it or whatever. But classic my dad, gets into some shenanigans with it. Fucking kills the battery a couple times. Doesn't know how to open the hood. All this kind of crazy shit. But it's all kept a secret from me while I'm in Florida. But I could just tell, I knew it in my heart. Something was going on. So I get back. I go home to my apartment. I drop off my bags and shit. And I get in an Uber and go to my parents' house. And I get there. And much to my surprise, no one's there. I'm like, where the fuck is everybody? Because usually one of them's home. And they're not there. And I call my mom. And I'm like, hey, where is everybody? And my mom's got a very weird tone in her voice. Like, hey, I'm like, yeah, I'm at your house. She's like, you're at our house. So you're back sooner than we thought you'd be back. And I'm like, yeah. Oh, anyway, where are you? She's like, oh, we had to go to this wake. Like, someone's friend we know died. I'm like, oh, son. I'm sorry. But my parents go to like 2 wakes a week, so it's not like that crazy. And, and my mom's like, did you try and start the car yet? This is classic, my mom. I'm like, no. She goes, well, the battery is dead. I don't know. It's probably... I mean, you can try it. It might work, but it's dead. And it's probably because you left it there for a couple weeks. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, okay, bye. And she just hangs up. And I'm just like, now I'm there. I'm fucked. I took an Uber all the way to my parents' house for, like, no reason. Can't drive the car. I just want to get on. I'm tired. I've been up since 4 in the morning. And I'm standing in the pouring rain. I'm texting all my friends in Milton and my sister. No one's around. No one can come and jump me. I got the cables and all that stuff. Finally, my brother-in-law comes, and we're standing there in the pouring rain. Now, my mom, I had to figure it out later and ask around later. I found out my dad was using my car. He left a light on, and that's why the battery was dead, I assumed. Figured that out. Did a little detective work. My mom, though, it is sweet that she was kind of covering for my dad, but I didn't appreciate the little cherry on top of, it's probably your fault. She could have just said it's dead. I don't know what's going on. She didn't need to say, it's probably because you left it there for 2 weeks. You dummy. You don't have to really add that. Just saying. But the rest of it was totally classic Noonan to just leave the car somewhere in hopes that, it won't be fucked with, to come back, have a bunch of problems with it, and not be able to use it. So I called AAA, but then finally my brother-in-law came, and he jump-started me before AAA even had to come. But I gotta say, a lot of people were like, I was like, hey, can you come jumpstart? I was telling people, like, oh, I need your... And then a bunch of people after I said, I'm fine, were like, oh, I would have come and jumped you. And I kept going, like, that's exactly what I was asking you to do. It was so weird that people did that. A bunch of people that I texted were like, oh, I can't make it, man, sorry. And then when I was like, I got it, don't worry, they were like, oh, it's too bad, I would have come. I'm like, that's what I asked you to do. That was something. So now, like, an hour and a half after I had been off the plane on about 1 hour's sleep, been up since 4 in the morning, my first, few hours back in Massachusetts after being in Florida, I was standing in the pouring rain and snow, jump-starting my car. And it was like, welcome back, motherfucker. And then I had a day. I slept in my own bed one time, and then I went to Springfield and did a couple gigs at the MGM Casino in Springfield, Mass, opening for Greg Fitzsimmons, which was fucking cool as fuck. Hung out with him. It was hard to not sort of fanboy him a little bit. I guess it wasn't so hard. I'm a grown man now, and I've got some comedic, like, I'm confident in myself as a comedian, so it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain that as much. I'm on a very bumpy road right now. But I didn't have to geek out as much when you actually have, like, a decently funny act and you can get laughs. You don't have to, you're a little bit, like, proven or something. So, like, we weren't buddy until I opened for him once, and then I guess he sees I'm not a complete hack or a piece of shit. And he's like, oh, all right, we'll hang out. But he was just a super nice guy. I'm a huge fan of him and everything he does. So it was very cool to meet him and have him laugh at a couple of my things, and that was a great experience through and through. So another funny thing happened to me that weekend, though, where it was I won $300 on a Spider-Man slot machine, just fucking around. Like, I had like $1.25 or something left on my, I had like $10 in my pocket or something. I was like, I might as well fucking gamble. It's late Saturday night. I was on my way to go to sleep. You got to go out and smoke weed in your car or something because you can't smoke in the hotel there. So I was coming back from smoking weed in my car, and I'm like, maybe I'll fucking gamble a little bit. Fuck it. So I go and I play some video poker, and it's not really going so hot, and I'm just pissing money away slow, and I'm like, this isn't that fun. And then I'm down to like $3.80 or something, or $3.18, and I'm like, it's on a card. I'm like, maybe I'll take this over to or a voucher. I'm like, I'll take this over to that Spider-Man slot machine I passed earlier. I'll lose it to that, and then I'll go to bed. That was kind of my mentality. I sit down, I walk over to Spider-Man slot machine. I'm high as shit. I sit down, and there's this 2 Spider-Man slot machines. One of them has this Asian dude in it. He's like 45. I sit next to him. He's on the phone talking to somebody. I put my little voucher in, and I'm looking at all the options, and I won't lie to you guys. I was kind of like tracing my finger over them, deciding which one I was going to pick, and I accidentally hit, like, bet it all, the max bet, like, hit it all button, right? So I bet, like, all the $3.18. All $3.18, and I won immediately. My first, just sat down, hit the button, I won $318. It like, you know, I hit the slot. So I just go, wow, and then I hit cash out, and then like, so this Asian guy's looking at me like, he starts laughing, but he's kind of looking at me like, wow, because to him it just looks like I was like, what's so hard about gambling? You know, I just sit down at the machine, hit the button, collect $300, go cash it out. That's how you do it. Not so hard. So I took that. By the way, I had just gotten paid for the weekend, which was not that much money. It was around that much. So I got, you know, it was a great weekend, great hotel, got to open for Greg. So it wasn't anything. I'm happy with that money, but it was like I just doubled my money for the weekend. I sit down, I go right to the cashier, I cash that out, I take the 18, I take 9 of it, I buy a cheeseburger, I eat it, and then I take the other 9, I play more video game poker, I play a little more Spider-Man, I lose it all, I don't win any more money, and then I went to bed, feeling pretty good. You know, I was like, I had gambled a little bit over the weekend, but just going up and down with $20. You know, like I had won a little bit, I was up to like 40, and then I was down, and I was sort of like kicking myself because I think I was down like $10 or something on the whole weekend. But I was sort of going up and down with this $20 that I was gambling with, and but yeah, so I felt good about that, and that was a nice little way. So then I had told my parents so my parents decided while I was in Florida that they wanted to go to Florida, but they wanted me to watch their house and their dog while they were gone. So they wanted me to do that. So I went right from the MGM to my parents' house, where I was there for like 4 or 5 days, still doing stand-up gigs in and around Massachusetts area, but not at my own home. At my parents' home with the dog. So then, finally, after all that, got back to Southie in my apartment. But I have not stopped really since Florida. Since before I left for Florida, really, I've just been go. As we speak this whole time, this podcast, I've been driving to Connecticut, through Connecticut. I'm on my way to do a gig for the Willimantic Fire Department. I've been in I did a fucking huge fundraiser with Matt Light and the Matt Light Foundation and Lenny Clark and all these fucking heavy hitting comedians at Foxborough. That was great. But it's just been, you know, of course we're still doing Capo every Monday and doing the Noonan Show, but it's been good. I'm not complaining. But I've been a very busy boy. And also, you know, buying groceries, getting laundry done, having a girlfriend, maintaining that relationship with her. You know, all kinds of stuff that goes with that, real life stuff too. Had to get my health insurance paperwork. Oh man, was that a headache, but I got it all done. I'm getting it all done lately, but boy, I'm looking forward to summer. A lot of times, if you've listened to this podcast for years, you know I dread summer a lot because things slow down and there's not as much work, and I can sometimes freak out, but not me. This summer, I think I'll be doing not a ton of traveling. I'll be doing a little bit of acting, but hopefully a lot less, just slowing things down. I just need a little downtime. I've been getting a lot of writing done with the downtime I have had lately. New material, new columns, article type shits. Getting into that. Really like doing that, must say. That's a fun process to write something, send it off to an editor, get something back and kind of tweak that. Enjoy that process. Wouldn't mind a future in that sort of thing. Another commercial, I think I already talked about filming that, so I'm excited about that. That's been an interesting change in my life. These Honda commercials have been such a cool thing to do. I had no idea when I did them. I knew they were going to be on, you know. I had a feeling people I knew would see it, but it is on all the time. It's one of those commercials. In New England, even in fucking... Because that's the whole thing. It's not even just Massachusetts, it's all New England. So people who know me in Maine, people who know me in Rhode Island, everywhere, people are like seeing this thing 10 times a day. And it's funny, even week to week, it's been out for like a month or so now, or a month and a half. And now people go from... They're like almost sick of seeing it. Some people, they bust my balls about it. Random people who don't know me are like, "Are you that guy?" It's been a little bit of a life change. A little bit. I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about or go crazy about, but it's definitely the number one topic of conversation in my life most days right now. Wherever I go. Went to my friend's kid's birthday party, and I was with my girlfriend, and I was like, afterwards, I was like, "Did you notice how every conversation is about the Honda commercials?" She's like, "Yeah." And it's okay. It's fucking cool. This is why you do things, right? But I've always wondered what shit's like. I always kind of wondered, what is it like to do something like that? You know, I think what's interesting, and not to toot my own horn or why this podcast is so great, but I think what's interesting about this podcast and why I would listen to it if I wasn't me is because you can read a Rolling Stone article about what a day in the life of Adam Sandler or, you know, Andy Samberg or some famous motherfucking millionaire comedian. Everyone knows what, not everyone knows, but you can imagine what their life is like. You know, whether or not you're even correct or incorrect, you can still imagine a little bit what life is like for that person. But no one really knows. I sit around all the time, I'm like, I wonder what a newscaster does with the rest of their day. I wonder what a radio DJ's life is like. There are other people in the world who aren't world famous who have, interesting... I don't even know how to explain it, but I always kind of wondered, what's it like if you're in a... All right, so when I was in high school, for example, I went to go see a play in Boston, a small play called Shopping and Fucking. That was the name of the play. We were feeling artsy, you know? So we go see this thing, and then like 2 months later, me and another friend of mine in high school, we see one of the actors eating in a cafe in Boston, and we go up and we say like, "Oh, hey, we saw you in Shopping and Fucking, and it was so good." And they're like, "Oh, thanks." And it must have been, you know, I remember thinking at the time, like, that wasn't anything, and that wasn't weird for me or them, or da-da-da. Ooh, just drove by a very bad accident. This wasn't weird for me or them or anything. But now when I look back, I'm like, that must have been odd for that person, like, to have someone come up, because that was just this one little thing they did, and they probably do all kinds of little plays. And I remember thinking since then, what's it like to be just an actor who's not famous but a little famous? And I had a friend who was on a soap opera, and it was always kind of interesting to see, you know, you'd go days, hours, you'd hang out with him, and no one would ever know who this guy was, and then all of a sudden one person would come up and they'd know him so well, they'd know like all kinds of things about him, and they'd be the biggest fan because they were a fan of the soap opera he was on. So that's something I think is interesting. Is, yeah, fame is an interesting animal. It's not, you can be famous for being a slut. You can be famous for, you know, having something bad happen to you, like you get your nuts cut off in a farming accident when you're 14 and you never move out of that town. Every time you walk into the bar, someone's gonna like lean over and be like, you know, you can be 68. Someone's like, you know, he's got no nuts. Cut him off in a fucking tractor when he was 16. Like, it's just people. Certain things can make you famous for good reasons, bad reasons. We all have different reasons why we're well known or not well known. But there is, you know, I've been doing this whole thing, acting and comedy thing, for my whole adult life. Since the fucking 2 weeks after I left high school, I've been trying to succeed in show business, right? With a couple weird vacations here and there. But for the most part, I'd say for 95% of that time, on the show business tip. And always at the very beginning, really, really wanting to be a famous person. Like at the beginning, that was like, I would never say it was the goal, because I did always want to be, I always want to do good work. Proud of that fact that even when I was dumb, I still wanted to work with good directors in my dreams, you know. I wasn't like, I just want to sell out. I did have at least in my mind, I wanted to work with auteurs, artists, right? But I definitely wanted to be famous. I had as a young man, I wanted to be followed by the paparazzi. I wanted to have famous girlfriends. I definitely wanted to go to parties. All that stuff was the dream in my mind, you know. Now, I don't think I'm getting a big head. I realize I'm just a local comedian who's in a Honda commercial. But what's funny is you get things in this business, and people treat you differently. And I've definitely felt a different from my fellow comedians. It's not good or bad. It's like an establishment thing, and it's like, hey, you're old now, you're older. It could just be my age. It could be the amount of time people have known me. It could be the fact that I've proved myself finally or something. But things change, and you notice all of a sudden your people are treating you with more respect than they used to, or you're just not getting, doors are opening instead of slamming, and you're kind of like, oh shit, what's happening, right? So I'm not saying I'm a very famous person, but experiencing a little bit of fame with this Honda commercial has been very interesting. And I've always said I never really thought it was a great idea to become super famous. Never seemed like as long as I've been doing this podcast, I've known that probably wouldn't be a great fit for me. I was talking about with Greg Fitzsimmons. He was saying, when he's friends with Zach Galifianakis, he's like, hanging out with him sucks. And you're in public, someone always comes up and takes a picture or talks to him. It's constant, especially nowadays where the currency is the photo of you with the person, post that, da-da-da-da-da. You gotta, yeah. You're famous too now, all that shit. So it's a fucking weird, ooh shit. Sorry, driving a car. Always got to remember that. Driving an automobile. But it's been interesting for me, good and bad, how people have treated me differently in my neighborhood even. Just like, hey, people are just friendlier for the most part. It's like, hey, you're not a piece of shit. But I think in acting and comedy, it's extra weird because you, as the person, feel like, hey, I've been bringing the goods forever. Like, you guys are just noticing it now. And it's not like a video game where when you level up, your character gets bigger. It's more like you're the same, and the way the world sees you is leveling up and down. And then you do get a little more confidence at each level. So then I think you start performing better because you're more confident. That definitely, I think, happened with me. Stand-up wise, I think once I started to headline more and it didn't completely fail, like once I got some headlining gigs and succeeded with them, 10, 15, 20 times, and I wasn't failing, I started to feel more confident, and then the gigs started to get even better. So such is life, right? But if anyone out there wants to know what it's like to be a guy in a local commercial that's on all the time, I will tell you, it's not a big deal, but it's a deal. It affects your life a little bit. And I welcome it, though, because one of my favorite things about being an actor, TV, because I'm in this thing in the Atlanta Aquarium, right, where it's like an exhibit. I think I'm still in it. I filmed it like two or 3 years ago. But I always was happy in my head after that, because I was like, that's like I'm working all the time. Like no matter what I'm doing, as long as that museum is open and that exhibit is there, I'm doing something somewhere. That video is just running on a loop. And commercials kind of make me feel that way too. Like people tell me, I saw your commercial. I saw your commercial the other day when I was watching like the Red Sox game, and it came on. I was like, hey, I know that guy. And if they're telling me that story and they get a smile on their face, for me as a comedian, I'm like, that's fucking awesome. That's like getting laughs when you're at home smoking weed. It's like how stockbrokers are like, make your money work for you. It's like doing a commercial is like making your comedy work for you. It's like, hey, you just go be funny one time. They show it fucking 100 times a day, and you're getting laughs out there in the universe, and you don't even realize it. You don't even know. So that's one of the cool things about being on TV or being in a TV commercial, is that people see it all day long at random times, and they're surprised. And honestly, it's not annoying to talk about with people either. I like, I'm happy to talk about it, but it's funny. It's annoying. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not annoying to. It's almost embarrassing, if that's like a weird. It's like embarrassing for someone to. If you're at like a barbecue, and someone comes, everyone's standing around talking something, and then it comes to you. People are like, so you're in this commercial, da-da-da-da-da. And there's not that much to say, really, other than like, yeah, it was cool, and I'm happy I'm in it. But if there can be these pregnant moments where there's more and more questions, and it starts getting into money. Number one question people ask me is, do you get paid every time it's on? I wish I did. Those deals, they got rid of those deals a long time ago. Get paid a flat fee when you do it, but you get paid for each kind of segment, right? So you film a ton of stuff, and if they make 4 commercials out of it, you get paid for each one. If they make 2 commercials and a radio commercial out of it, because you also do some audio stuff that they can use just for the old radio. So you do get separate checks for each of those things, and it all adds up to a nice decent little payday for a guy like me. But it's not, I think some people think I must have made a shitload of money, and I'm like, I'm into getting a BMW or something soon, but that's not even close to true. And other people think I must have made dick or something, and I got like $1,200, and then like other people who are actors, some of them think maybe I made not enough. Maybe not as much as I made, I've noticed. What'd you get for that, like, scale? I'm like, a little bit more than that. But it's cool, man. My best friend growing up, Ian Kemp, who's still one of my best friends. One of my closest confidants, I would say. His dad was an actor, and I'd say still is an actor. But I would say he was, not a famous guy, not a name guy, character actor. But especially when I was growing up, he's done some really bigger things since Ian, grew up and went to college and stuff. But when we were kids, he was staying in Massachusetts more, doing more stuff like I'm doing now, like local commercials and things like that, and radio stuff. So grew up hearing my friend's dad, Tom, on the radio and doing commercials and everything. So I had a little bit of a, there's a person who does this thing kind of vibe. And now that person is me. And it's very interesting sometimes to hear myself and be like, oh, this is just like when I used to hear Ian's dad, Tom, on the radio. when I was a kid, and now I'm hearing myself. It's like we come full circle. It's like life is cyclical. You know, it's almost as if there's some sort of meaning to all this. I don't know. Well, I'm 20 minutes from my gig and I'm driving in the woods. That is always a terrible feeling, I gotta say. I hate the old middle of nowhere drives. I like to be near Dunkin's. I like to be near a gas station. I like it to be near urgent care facility. Never a fan of the far off the highway gigs, but what can you do, you know? What can you do? Gotta work where the comedy is. But anyway, guys, that's the show for this week. Can't promise. Every time I say there's another episode coming soon, but I don't know. But as I do this, I always think, man, I have so much fun doing Hypothetically. So Jess asked for this one on Flat Cat. She asked for this one on Twitter, and it made me start thinking about it. And that often works. Whenever someone sends me an email or something going, when are you going to do a fucking episode of Hypothetically? I usually do one. So if you like the podcast, stay on my fucking ass for it, and I'll do it for you. But thank you guys so much for listening. I'm shocked at the amount of downloads this podcast still gets, even though I haven't put out an episode in 2 months. I appreciate it so much. Check out the Noonan Show. It's a great time. I think you'll like it. And if you like this, I know you'll like it. And we're about to have a great summer together. So hope you're having fun out there. I'm having fun out here. Stay in touch. Love you guys. Peace. Oh, and if no one told you they love you today, I do. Peace out, motherfucker! Testing. 1, 2, 3. Test. 1, 2. Good morning. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.